life is an endless journey across the bounds of space and time. A time traveler, drifting amongst the great galaxies of the universe. The TARDIS made an uncomfortable landing. It was as though we had been plucked from the sky by some vast magnetic force, pulling us down into its web. Of course, I had no idea where or in which period of time we had arrived. But we had materialized onto an isolated stretch of beach, miles from any visible signs of habitation. It was a cold, unwelcoming winter's night, with curling white foam gently lapping the shore. And all around us, deep mud banks stretching for as far as the eye could see.
Tom, I'm sorry to play that. I mean, you sort of grimaced a bit when I put it on, but I mean, Doctor Who was such a large chunk of your life, wasn't it?
Yes, I wasn't showing any displeasure. I'm extremely glad to have played Doctor Who, because it was something which opened up so many other things for me. It was one of the happiest periods of my life. And in one or two respects, I miss it, really. I miss the daily grind of working on those scripts at such high speed. But particularly I miss, because I'm completely anonymous now, I've had my hair cut and I'm growing a beard, nobody recognizes me anymore, which doesn't displease me at all. But the thing I really miss is that sort of instant intimacy I used to have with children, which I think that the other fellows who've played it said the same thing as well. That was an extraordinary sensation, that being able instantly to disarm any sort of anxiety in children.
Yes, I was reading about your way with children. If they were frightened of you, you would say to them, "Haven't I seen you on the television?" Which is a lovely turnaround.
It was quite extraordinary that after a little while, when I'd met several thousand children, that none of them ever asked me a new question. I mean, they sometimes used to surprise me with their letters. You know, children who would write, say, "I'm not very well today and I've written to you and the Queen." Or perhaps the Queen and then you. I don't know what the order was. But it was just such a lovely, lovely job to do. And, of course, it's made everything else possible. You know, people are reassured by a successful series and offer one more work.
When one is well known, people do actually intrude on your life, but somehow children don't intrude in the same way, do they?
No, they don't. I used to... The mail was very strictly divided, and I didn't read all the adult letters. Lots of them were rather disturbing or... yes, odd and sometimes painful even. But I used to look at all the mail from the children. That was very easy and very pleasant to do. And so finally it came the point where, after whatever it was, I mean, I suppose that must have been 5 years' work spread over 6 and a bit years, because I did 2 series back to back and then had a breather. I suppose, yes, I've done the most, I think.
Yes,
and then
I think
suddenly there came a moment when I thought, well, I've done it, there's nothing else I can bring to it, and I better let someone else have a go. You see, the curious paradox of popular television, by that I mean series and serials, the curious paradox, which applies to all that area of television, is that once a thing is successful and a character has a wide appeal and is perhaps in the ratings or whatever, there can be no further development. At the same moment, the characters are frozen. So there was no fundamental difference between any of the Z-Cars characters at the beginning or the end, or the Coronation Street characters, or the Crossroads characters. They remain the same. They don't... And I think it's probably because television taking place primarily in a domestic context, people actually don't like sudden changes.
In fact, you said, I think I read somewhere, it doesn't matter who plays Doctor Who, the format's bigger than the star.
I think so, yes. I think that's absolutely true. That's not sort of false modesty. I mean, I think just given... the professional expertise, anyone could do it because the formula is wonderful. And, of course, anyway, it's unarguable because no one has ever failed at it.
Yes.
No one.
You took the role very seriously. I mean, you've admitted you like a drink and you enjoy life, but when you were Doctor Who and you were going out to various functions and meeting children, you never smoked and you never drank. You never disappointed them, did you?
No, never.
You always were Doctor Who.
Well, I mean, it's unthinkable to...
Yes.
It was a very small price to pay. I mean, my sort of flirtation with the low life of Soho actually sprang out.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
It sprang really out of the relative anonymity one could have there, because one can go to places there where there are journalists or other actors or writers or artists of some kind, and be quite secure from the prying eyes of people who might want to make something out of it, or indeed secure from the possibilities of disappointing anybody. I mean, obviously, one doesn't matter how much one likes low life or carousing, one couldn't, doing the part I had, be seen plastered going down the street, because, a child would be disappointed.
You're totally reliable at work, Tom. Many people have said it, but you do have a habit of wandering off. And again, I read that if you're invited to a dinner party and you wake up that morning, you don't feel you've got anything to contribute, you don't go. Is this true? Do you really?
Yes, it is. I would never dream. I get very anxious if I'm committed too far in advance. But, I would simply ring up and say I won't be there. And people would understand that. And if they didn't, well, it's unthinkable. Of course they'd understand it, because that's the way I am. Yes, I don't believe. If I go to dinner parties and meet actors or anyone else and you say, hello, Henry, how are you? And he says, God, I'm so tired. I instantly want to kick them. Because I don't think that people should go to dinner parties when they're tired. Or if they are tired when they get there, they shouldn't mention it. I really feel it's a very strong obligation wherever I go to be contributory in some way. Otherwise, I stay home. And I hide my anxieties at home.
Would you call yourself a loner? Because there was one quote, nearly everything I do is related to acting. We're professional pleasers and that works against deep relationships.
Did I really say that?
Yes, you did. I thought it was very profound.
Yes, yes, I think I'm really quite impressed that I said that. I think that there's something in that, don't you?
I do, actually.
I think, you see, that when one is totally preoccupied with oneself, which actors are, with their performances, with their appearances, with their impact on audiences, I think that kind of self-preoccupation does militate against relationships, because, of course, one is actually being utterly selfish. And therefore, actors are often really rather dull below the level of their performances or their attitude to work, because they are obsessed with themselves. So therefore, maybe there's something...
Yes, one often finds it's a bit like a puppet in a box, that they sleep until they come alive on stage. Not all. There are some lovely actors around, but there are some who live when they're performing.
That's right, yes. There's a tremendous sort of rev-up when it comes to a performance, so that you... Sometimes, if you're in something very difficult... When I was in Hedda Gabler recently, it was so difficult to do that thing that I used to stay in bed most of the day, stay very quiet all day, and then go to the theatre very early, say about 4 or 3 o'clock, to get prepared for the performance. I can't just fly in and do it. I have to sort of get myself quiet and revved up for it.
I just want to finish off by saying that Hound of the Baskervilles, which is being shown in 4 episodes on BBC television, coming out in October, did you approach Holmes with a different...
I was really... I did too much work on Holmes, actually, and I wanted to do it for so long. I'm very interested in Sherlock Holmes. Actually getting to play, I suddenly realised what a monster he was, a real megalomaniac. And lots of unpleasant aspects to his personality, but nevertheless fascinating. I suppose really he's the forerunner of James Bond, isn't he, really, the super sleuth, the first forensic detective. Yes, I liked doing that.
Tom Baker, I liked talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.